And this story incorporates a lot of the ideas of the Celtic people about their relationship to nature and to each other, and also the power of music. There was a real sense of music having more than just the power of entertainment. So this is about an ancient god named Dagda.
And it's this story is thought to be when the Bronze Age people came in and took over from the Stone Age people. So we're going back in time a little bit here.
I'm curious, any of you that might know about Balkan folklore, if after you hear this, if you recall any story similar to your tradition. You can imagine the great hall, tapestries on the walls, dogs chewing on bones, a fire, and the harper and the bard tell the story.
Many long years ago, when the sky was more blue, the water more clear, and the grass more green than it is today, the Tuatha came to Ireland. Now their warriors were the bravest, their sages were the wisest, the people the most beautiful that Ireland had ever seen. But the bravest, the wisest, and the most beautiful of them all was their leader, who they called the Dagda. And Dagda had many beautiful treasures in his house. He had tall tapestries twined with scenes of heroes hunting, and great golden goblets set with glittering gems. But his most prized possession, the thing dearest to his heart, was his harp. And the Dagda would play his harp for the people. Sometimes he'd play the gantre, the music of dance and celebration. And just as the Dagda's fingers would dance across the strings of the harp, so the people would dance and be merry. Sometimes the Dagda would play the goldre, the music of the lament. And then the people would remember their lost loves, their fallen friends, their high hopes unfulfilled. Yet in remembering, they would honor these things. And then the Dagda would play the swantre, the music of sleep and of healing. And then the people would sleep peaceful sleep, dream beautiful dreams, and forget their sorrows. The Dagda also played his harp to change the seasons. In the springtime he'd play the sound of the melting snow and the rushing stream. And then all the buds would burst from the banks, and the fields and forests would be filled with ferns and flowers. Then as the wheel of the year turned to the slow, lazy days of the summer, the music would change to the song of the ripening fruit and the fattening grain, until all the fruit hung heavy on the bough and the fields of corn grew golden. When the wheel of the year turned to the days of the autumn, the Dagda would play the sound of the falling leaves. And then squirrels would seek nuts to hide for the winter, and the bears would seek their dens. And then in those short, cold days of the winter, he'd play the cold, hard sound of the freezing stream and the falling snow. And then the people would stay in their houses, close to their fires, and wait to hear the spring song once again. Now the Dedanen weren't the only people in Ireland. The Fomorians had been there ages untold. And they were friendly at first, but they saw the many beautiful treasures of the Dedanen, and at last they made war to take those things. And And for many years the battles raged. First one side, then the other would prevail. Once in the winter of the year, during a battle, some Fomorian fighters stole from the scene of the battle to the Dagda's house. And there they seized his harp and carried it back to the stronghold of their leader, Balor of the Evil Eye. The Dagda knew at once something was amiss. There was such a strong connection between his heart and his harp. He rushed back to his house to find indeed his harp had been stolen. So he called his armies and allies together to lay siege to the fortress of Balor. And for many weeks that battle raged. But the Fomorian fighters were fierce and many, and Balor, the giant with the evil eye, was the equal of 100 men. So the Dedanen and their allies withdrew. The people came. "O Dagda, it is time for the planting to begin. And still the snow lies deep in all our fields. It's up to a tall man's knees. You must get your harp back." So the Dagda sent his 7 slyest spies to steal the harp. And they got into the fortress. They got into the very feasting hall. It was filled with Fomorian warriors feasting and carousing, and Balor on his giant chair, and high on the wall, hung like a trophy there, was his harp. There was nothing they could do. The people came again. "O Dagda, it is time for the harvest to begin. The snow is deeper than ever in our fields. It's up to a tall man's waist. Dagda, you must get your harp. Dagda, we are all starving." Now the Dagda had found he couldn't get his harp by force, nor by guile. Only by personal courage could he retrieve the instruments. Then he rubbed dirt on his hair and in his beard, and took an old ragged cloak and threw it on over his shoulders, seized a staff, and he hobbled up to the gate of the fortress disguised as a beggar. And when he got there, he knocked on the gate. And the gatekeeper let him right in. Remember, in these days, there was a sacred law of hospitality, and whenever a beggar came to your door, you always offered food and shelter for the night. So the gatekeeper led the Dagda into the feasting hall, and there were the warriors, just as before, and Balor on his giant chair, and there was the harp. And in his heart he called to the harp, and he began to dance on its peg until at last it flew from the wall and across the fire into his arms. The Fomorian warriors leapt to their feet. They seized their weapons to attack the Dagda. He began to play the gantre. And the warriors began to dance. They couldn't help themselves, and they danced so hard and so fast, they couldn't hold their weapons. They dropped them to the floor with a great clatter. And as the Dagda continued to play the merry strains of the gantre, the warriors began to laugh. And they laughed so hard they themselves fell on the floor and kicked their feet in the air with mirth. And after they'd been laughing a good long time, he played the gold tray. And these fierce warriors who'd been roaring with mirth one moment were now sobbing and weeping like little babes. Even Balor on his giant chair was weeping great tears that fell to the floor and flooded the fire. And then he played the swan tray, and he put them all to sleep. Then he carried his harp out of that place onto a high hill, and once there he played the song of the south wind to call the springtime once again to Ireland.
O south wind of the gentle rain, you banish winter weather, bring salmon back to the pools again, the bees among the heather. If northward go you mean to go, as softly you rustle above me, Godspeed be with you as you go, and a kiss for those to do a song that you can join in with, because Celtic music is social music. It's about having people sing along with you and join in the journey, in the experience. And this is a song about a special tree. Trees are very important to the Celtic people. There are lots of very, very large trees that were highly regarded and honored. And this tree is symbolic of the tree of life. The roots go down, down deep into the earth, and the branches reach high, high into the sky. And in that tree are all kinds of creatures and all kinds of things living there. If you look again at the Celtic knotwork, it's symbolic of all of those relationships of the creatures and the plants and the people and the earth and the sky. So the chorus goes, it's a rare bog. A bog is like a swamp. The rare bog, the rattling bog, the bog down in the valley. Oh, try that.
A rare bog, a rattling bog, a bog down in the valley, oh. Rare bog, a rattling bog, a bog down in the valley, oh.
Let's try it together.
Rare bog, a rattling bog, a bog down in the valley, oh. Rare bog, a rattling bog, a bog down in the valley, oh. That's amazing. So how many internationals are here?
Some of you may have heard this one.
In that bog there is a tree, a rare tree, a rattling tree. Tree in a bog down in the valley, oh. Rare bog, a rattling bog, a bog down in the valley, oh. Rare bog, a rattling bog, a bog down in the valley, oh. On that tree there is a limb, a rare limb, a rattling limb. Limb on the tree in a bog down in the valley, oh. Rare bog, rattling bog, a bog down in the valley, oh. Rare bog, rattling bog, a bog down in the valley, oh. On that limb there is a branch, a rare branch, a rattling branch. Branch in the limb, in the limb, in the tree in a bog down in the valley, oh. Rare bog, a rattling bog, a bog down in the valley, oh. Rare bog, rattling bog, a bog down in the valley, oh. On that branch there is a twig, a rare twig, a rattling twig. Twig in the branch, in the branch, in the limb, in the limb, in the tree in a bog down in the valley, oh. Rare bog,